everybody. Thank you, Fiona, for that introduction. So Fiona's gone through all my credentials, which are on the screen there, so I won't bore you with that again. But I will let you know is that I did my first teacher training in yoga in 2017, and that was 350 hours worth of teacher training. And then in 2018, I went on and did a further 50 hours of teacher training. So I'm now qualified to teach a number of different styles of yoga. When I'm not working at Diabetes SA, that's when I'm teaching, so it's generally after hours or on the weekend. And I've been practising yoga for about 8 years and I absolutely love it. So today I'm going to be talking you through the yoga component. So this here is just a little bit of content so you know what's going to come up. So I am going to touch on the history of yoga, then we're going to go through what yoga is and what it means. Some of the different styles of yoga, because there's lots of different styles. I'll talk about the benefits of yoga, and in particular I'll have a focus on diabetes management. I'm going to cover a couple of different meditation techniques, and then hopefully, if I'm not talking for too long, we'll have a few minutes at the end to put it into practice, and we'll do a bit of a yoga sequence here on your chairs. So firstly, I just wanted to cover a couple of misconceptions of yoga. So these are what I commonly hear when I talk to people. I'm not flexible enough, I'm not able-bodied enough, or I don't have expensive yoga pants, so I can't do yoga. All of these are based on the thought that yoga is a physical practice, but it is much more than that. So as we go through the history of yoga, I will hopefully show you that yoga is more than just a postures. So the very first records of yoga actually date back thousands and thousands of years ago. And they were in the form of seals depicting spiritual beliefs, and they were found in an archaeological site of the Indus Valley civilization. So that's one of the most ancient civilizations in the world. Then a little bit after that, some of the earliest scriptures were written, and these are called the ancient text of the Vedas. And what these are, they tell of Vedic culture and Vedic yoga, but what they don't talk about is a physical practice of yoga. Instead, they focus on the philosophy, worship and meditation of yoga. And then around 600 BC, that's when a definition of yoga emerged. And the definition of yoga at this time was that yoga is the control or stilling of all fluctuations and transformations of the mind and the consciousness at all levels. So still no mention of a physical practice. Around 500 BC, that's when the Bhagavad Gita, so I'm just going to call it the Gita for short because it's a very long name, was established. Now this here, the Gita, is an important yoga scripture. It outlines the ancient principles of yoga, and one of the central teachings that come out of this is to do one's duty and not expect anything in return. So that's just a lesson that I quite enjoyed from that. And then after that, the Yoga Sutras were written, which were based off of the principles of the Gita. The Yoga Sutras are a collection of aphorisms about the theory and the practice of yoga. And they outline the 8 limbs of yoga, which is what forms the core of most yoga practices today and what we'll talk about in a little bit more detail. Around 1100 AD was the birth of Hatha Yoga. So Ha means sun and Tha means moon. So it's the balance between light and dark, or sun and moon, the practice of balancing the body. Hatha tends to be an umbrella term that's used for all yogas that are grounded in a physical practice, and I'll give you some examples of what those types of yogas may be. A little bit after that, we have the light on Hatha Yoga, which was written. At this point in time, that was when the most complete book of yoga postures were. So you can see it's actually come quite a way from the very beginning of yoga to when we start talking about a physical practice. The Gita then gets translated into English and becomes more accessible to a lot more people. And so things start moving really quickly after here. In 1840, we have this illustrated book of yoga poses that emerges. And what's interesting about this one is the figure that is in this book, we don't actually know who it is. It's an anonymous figure, but it is one of the most complete books of all of the yoga poses. The USA was introduced to yoga in 1893 by an Indian Hindu monk. And then after that, there's Australia, lucky last. We took on yoga around 1950. The first yoga studio was actually opened in Sydney. 5 years after that, there was one opened in Melbourne. And then going on from there, yoga has become more widely accepted and practiced all around Australia. So I suppose what yoga is can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. As you can see, there's lots of words on the slide there. But yoga really is an ancient practice, and it encompasses elements of spirituality, compassion, wisdom, and mental practices as well. So depending on who you speak to, they will have a different take on yoga, and what I'm going to share with you today is what my take on yoga is and what it means to me. So here are the 8 limbs of yoga that I mentioned earlier. They form the core of most yoga practices today. Each limb, as you can see, has its own circle, so they do have individual components, but they are all merged by a greater circle. So the 8 limbs are not a 1 to 8 step that you need to achieve the first step to move on to the next. You can actually practice a lot of these limbs simultaneously. And what they do is provide a guideline to evolve the human consciousness and to serve as a compass to live a more meaningful and purposeful life. The first limb of yoga is the yam, and these are the considerations of moral code. So what that means are they're guidelines on how we would relate to other people. And there are 5 aspects to this yam. So the first is non-violence, truthfulness, non-stealing, moderation, and non-attachment. So these are ethical standards for how we would treat other people. The next limb of yoga, the niyams, they are the considerations of personal behaviour. So this limb talks about how we relate to the relationship with ourselves. And again, there are 5 elements to this limb of yoga. We have purity, and purity applies to both the body and the mind, also the thoughts, our hygiene, our diet, which is really important when we're talking about diabetes management. We've had 2 lovely speakers who have covered food earlier on today. So making sure that what we put into our bodies is as pure as possible. Then we have surrender, so that's pretty much just believing that there is actually something greater out there than just ourselves. Self-study, contentment, and discipline or willpower. So these are the guidelines that go into how we relate to ourselves. And then we've got our other limbs of yoga. So that first one, asana, that's the physical practice of yoga, and that's what most people know yoga to be today. But traditionally, what this limb of yoga did was it served to prepare the body for the more internal practices. We then have pranayam, which is the mindful breathing. So prana refers to life force or energy that lives within us. We're going to practice a little bit of pranayama later on today. The next one there, pratyaha, that's the 5th limb of yoga, which is the withdrawal of senses. So basically we receive information from the outside world through our senses, so through touch, smell, sight, hearing and taste. And when we receive those signals, our mind becomes stimulated. What this limb of yoga does is it teaches us to not focus on the external stimulations, but rather to bring our focus inwards. And it's a great stage for preparing for meditation. The next limb of yoga, the dhāran, that's the 6th limb, so that's intense concentration. What this limb of yoga does is that it focuses the mind on a single point. So you could focus the mind on a mantra, so one that I like to use especially in the mornings when I'm running around, most likely late for work, not late for work. or just trying to achieve too many things all in the morning is that I have time. So sometimes if I feel like I'm becoming overwhelmed in the morning, I'll just stand still, take a breath and then repeat, I have time, about 4 or 5 times. And that generally just helps to calm the body, because what it does is it takes my mind away from focusing on all of the other things that are going on, and brings my attention to that single focus. So that's just a mantra you can use, but some people like to focus on an object like a flickering candle as well, and that's training the mind to stop jumping around. Our 7th limb of yoga focuses on the actual meditation. So you can think of meditation as a longer step to a longer time in intense concentration. So generally when we do the intense concentration, it will only be for short periods of time. When we do meditation, it's for longer periods of time. And in meditation, what we're doing is stilling the mind to a point where we have few or no thoughts at all. And if we do have a thought during meditation, that thought floats in the background. It doesn't actually take our awareness away. And then that last limb of yoga is that Sakmahadi. That's the oneness or constant harmony. And that's that state of yoga where people can say that they feel like they're blissful and they're happy. They feel like they're in harmony with their surroundings. So they're the principles that sort of ground the yoga. And I really like this quote. So yoga is for everybody and everybody, so very different. And you can see through the limbs of yoga how really anybody can practice yoga. To me, yoga is largely based on a practice of self-awareness, self-love and freedom from materialistic things. And through the yoga practice, you learn to control impulses and learn to be okay with life as it is. And I think that's an important lesson, especially when you are living with a chronic condition and something like diabetes, which demands quite a lot of your attention and your time. It can be quite easy to feel overwhelmed by managing the condition, especially if you're checking blood glucose levels and maybe you get a number that you're not expecting because you've tried really hard. You might have an impulse to emotionally react to that number. So through a yoga practice, it sort of teaches you to take a step back, take a pause, be okay with how things are, and then maybe reevaluate and look to see what's led you to this point. So that's all the background stuff of yoga. Now I'll just quickly go over the different styles of yoga. So earlier I said I spoke about the Hatha Yoga, and the Hatha Yoga is really that umbrella term for all yogas that are grounded in a physical practice. So I've split the yoga styles into 2, those grounded in physical practice and those that aren't. Out of the ones that are grounded in physical practice, so out of our Hatha yogas, there's lots of different styles. This isn't a complete list of all of the yogas, it's just some of the most common ones and some of the ones you'll find around Adelaide as well. So out of this list, I teach Bikram, Yin and Vinyasa. And all of these types of yogas are very different. So as an example, in a Bikram class, it's a 90-minute yoga, it's in the heat, it's the same 26 postures and 2 breathing exercises, and you have to look at yourself in the mirror the whole time, which can be quite confronting for some people. You need to learn to accept yourself as you are. So it's quite a physically demanding practice and mentally demanding practice, whereas something like Yin Yoga still falls under the Hatha style of yoga, but that's actually quite a different yoga. So that is mainly on the floor, there's no heat, it's only 60 minutes, and the postures are held for longer periods of time, so 2 to 5 minutes, and instead you work deeper into the connective tissues rather than working the muscles. And because you hold postures for so long, you have quite a lot of time to think. So you get to practice observing your thoughts, noticing them and not letting them take over. So lots of different styles of Hatha Yoga. If you are interested in yoga and there's a yoga studio around your area, I would suggest giving them a call and asking them about their yoga and working out if it's appropriate for you. We have the other one, so the non-physical based practices, so a couple there which are meditation based, and then one which is action based. So when we talk about karma yoga suggests that we act with an attitude of selflessness and selfless service. So basically you do something and you don't expect anything in return. Not even a thank you, no appreciation, you're just doing it because you know it's a good thing to do and it will help some other person. So I'll briefly go over the benefits of yoga. So if you are doing a physical practice of yoga, there will be physical benefits to the body. Improved flexibility, strength and tone and balance, they're pretty common when we talk about, they're pretty well known when we talk about the benefits of yoga. But there are other benefits as well. So it does improve blood flow, it can improve bone health. There are studies done where a regular yoga practice can actually improve bone mineral density. So that's really good as we get older, helping to reduce that risk of osteoporosis. It can improve blood glucose management. So this is sort of a multi-pronged approach here. So physical practice of yoga, you exercise the bodies. As the muscles contract, they soak up the extra glucose in the bloodstream, so that helps to bring blood glucose levels down. But there's also a mental aspect to yoga as well. If you're quite stressed, you may find that your blood glucose levels are high, and if you practice yoga, that actually can decrease some of that stress, and you may notice your blood glucose levels come back within range. So that's just a couple of ways there. Helps to decrease blood pressure, improve sleep. I don't know about you, but I've heard from multiple people that when they don't sleep well, they don't have very good management of their blood glucose levels the next day, so a yoga practice can also help in that respect. Weight reduction and maintaining a healthy weight, and then also protection from injury. And that really goes back to those first 3 points. If you're more flexible, if you have a bit of strength and tone, if you've got good balance, those all things feed into protecting you from injury. So if you were to fall over, you would be less likely to hurt yourself. Then there's the mental benefits of yoga. So we look at here yoga helping to increase self-esteem, and that's again coming back to that being okay with who you are as a person and how you react to the other people around you, improving stress management, improving symptoms of anxiety and depression. So we know that people who live with diabetes are at an increased risk of anxiety and depression. When you practice yoga, that can actually help to reduce some of those symptoms. And the PTSD, so post-traumatic stress disorder, there's been a few studies done as well which can actually show that yoga can help people who are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, and a lot of that has to do with grounding the person in the moment rather than letting their mind sort of wander off to those traumatic events. Yoga can help to sharpen concentration, helps to calm the mind and improve social well-being. And then the final limb I'll talk about here is the emotional benefits of yoga. It improves your mood, awareness, mindfulness, and that sense of relaxation as well. And when all that happens, you get a greater sense of emotional control. There is a point there which says that it also reduces impulsivity, so that again, if you come across a situation, whether that be you're managing your chronic condition or something has happened in your life, and you actually, through a practice of yoga, when those things happen that aren't going the way that you wanted them to go, you have the ability to take a pause rather than just impulsing and reacting. You actually learn what techniques work for you and how you can sort of take an objective look at what's happening around you. It improves relationships and, of course, improving that mind-body connection. So you become more in tune with your own body and what works for you and what doesn't. So I'll just touch on a couple of different meditation techniques, and then after that there is a physical practice. So everybody get ready. For meditation, there are lots of different meditation techniques. There's hundreds out there. There's no one best meditation technique or not one that helps to relax you more than another. It's really individual. So I will touch over a couple of the different ones that I personally have found useful. The Headspace app, though, also has a nice page on this and talks about meditation techniques in a lot of detail. So if the ones I talk about don't work for you, that's fine. You can always have a look on Headspace app. So first I'll just break the meditation techniques down into two. So we have guided meditation and unguided meditation. That's pretty self-explanatory, but a guided meditation, a teacher will take you through the meditation practice, and all guided meditations have the same sort of format. The teacher leads you through the practice, explains how your mind should behave during that practice, and then gives you some suggestions on how you can incorporate that into everyday life. Whereas an unguided meditation, you're doing that on your own, and generally that is done by sitting in a quiet room, being still, observing the thoughts and the breath. Most people will do an unguided meditation after they've done a few guided ones, and then they'll pull from the guided ones what works for them, and they'll go home and do it on their own. And then we can further split the meditation techniques into calming and insight, or you may even incorporate them both together. So a calming meditation practice, the intention is to cultivate a quieter, calmful, more peaceful state of mind. Generally, that's achieved through focusing on a particular object, and then you return to that object when your mind wanders. Whereas an insight meditation, you set an intention that will transform your mind. You aim to achieve a greater insight into yourself and into the world around you. So in an insight meditation, you would pay close attention to your breath. You would be aware and you would note any thoughts or feelings that arise. And what that does is it helps you to become more aware of what's happening internally. So the 3 types of meditation techniques that I like to use, the first is called focused attention, and that's where you use the breath to focus the attention and the mind and anchor it to the present moment. Helps you to maintain awareness, so when your mind wanders, you just come back to the breath, very simple. A body scan is another meditation technique, and what this does, it really aims to strengthen the mind-body connection. So as you're sitting there from head to toe, you would scan the body and you would notice any areas of tension, discomfort, maybe thoughts or emotions that arise, and then you would just focus on that, take a few breaths and move through the body from head to toe. And my favourite meditation technique is called noting. It is exactly what it sounds like. You note what distracts your mind. So when you become distracted, you are no longer paying attention to your breath, you're paying attention to the thought that has arisen. When you note that thought, you bring awareness to it, and then you get to make a conscious decision whether you're going to allow that thought to dominate your day or if you're going to let it pass. When you do noting, it provides you an opportunity to let go of distractions and learn more about your internal thought patterns, tendencies, and conditionings. And that's the end of the theory. So now while we've got a few minutes, we're going to put it into practice. So I've just come up with a quick spine series chair yoga. So I'm going to switch off the roving mic so that I can walk away from the lectern. And if you just want to push your chairs away from the tables, give yourselves a little bit of space around you. Can you all? Yes, you can all still hear me. Wonderful. Great. So when we do this series, there'll be a little video that pops up. So I'll take a step back. I've put the spine series together because it's really nice to be able to move your spine in all 6 directions. Your spine should be able to go forwards, backwards, sides to sides, and twist. And chair yoga, again, coming back to that first misconception that you need to be able-bodied to do yoga. If you're sitting in a chair, you can do yoga. So just helping to reiterate that yoga really is for everybody. So the first one we're going to do is called cat and cow pose. Basically, what we're aiming to do here is to create a back bend and a forward bend to the spine. I will show you the video in a moment, but from a seated position, what you're going to do is you're going to place your hands on your knees and lock out your elbows as best as you can. Going to keep the mouth closed and use the nose to breathe. When you inhale through your nose, you're going to lift your chest and your head and drop your head back. That creates the back bend. And then on the inhale, you're going to tuck your chin in. Oh, that's really loud. Draw the belly button to the spine and round the spine. So this is what it looks like. Arms straight, inhale, chest up, head back. And then exhale, draw the chin in, draw the belly button to the spine, round the spine. On your inhale, lift your chest, lift your chin, drop your head back. And on your exhale, draw your chin in, draw your belly button to your spine. Inhale, head up, chest up. Exhale, chin in, belly in, round the spine. And then you can do one more here on your own. Let your breath guide the movement through your body. And as you finished your final exhale, on your inhale, you can bring your spine back to a neutral position. Nice. Wonderful. Who felt some sensations through their shoulders or their back or their spine? Did anyone? Yeah. Feel good or not so good?
Excuse me, should you open your eyes or close your eyes?
Up to you. You can have your eyes open or closed. No, that's fine. In yoga practice, I would personally recommend you close your eyes when you do it, because that eliminates the sight, so that distraction of what's happening around you, and it creates more of a personal space for you to do yoga. Some people closing the eyes can be a trigger for them, so they would keep their eyes open and just focus like a meter in front of you or something to focus the mind. Everybody enjoy cat-cow pose? Yes? I'm not just making you do yoga because I'm standing up here with the pointer. Well, kind of. So this one is a side stretch. So what we did then was move our spine backwards and forwards. What we're going to do now is move our spine side to side. When you do this, try to keep your shoulders at equal distance from the front of the room. Sometimes as you reach up and over, if you have quite a lot of tightness, the shoulders will rotate out, and we don't want to do that. So what it looks like is you would grab the chair with your other arm, you'd lift your right arm up and over, inhale, stretch up, and then exhale, just reach over. So try to keep the arm as locked as possible. Who here can lock out their elbow? Yeah, and reach up and over. Really good. So you should hopefully feel a stretch down the side body. And then you can swap arms. So the arm that's up will now come down. You'll grab the chair. The other arm will go straight up. You'll inhale, stretch up. And then exhale, just bend over to the side. Can feel quite good. So you should feel a lengthening down the sides of the body. Great. Nice. Well done. Did everyone feel that down their side body? Yes? No? Great. So we have one more. And this one's a spine twist. So maybe just watch this one first, because there'll be a couple of different options for those who would like to go a little bit further. So with a spine twist, I've taken my left hand and popped my left hand onto my right knee. Now you can either grab the leg of the chair behind you, you can grab the rest as well, so it depends on the flexibility here through your shoulders and how tight you are. What you do is, once you've found that position with the other arm, all you're going to do is inhale, stretch up, and then as you exhale, you're going to look over the shoulder and twist. So try not to push through any pain here. Okay, if you get any sharp shooting pain, just back out a little bit. But every time you want to go a little bit deeper in the twist, first you're going to inhale, stretch up, and then exhale, turn and twist. So all together, if you grab your right arm, so right arm in the air, place the right arm onto the left knee. With the left hand, either grab the leg of the chair or go for the rest behind you, depends. Okay. Once you've found that, you're going to inhale, stretch up, and then exhale, look over your right shoulder, turn and twist. Left shoulder, turn and twist. So keep going, inhale, stretch up. So you need to have a nice long spine. Exhale, turn and twist, look over the shoulder. We'll keep going, one more breath, inhale, stretch up. Exhale, turn, twist, and twist. Great. And you can come back to centre. So we'll do the other side now. With your left hand, take your left hand and place it onto your right knee. With your right hand, you're either going to grab the leg behind you or you're going to grab the rest. When you twist, please keep your chin parallel. So avoid lifting the chin or bringing it in. It just stays parallel to the floor. So from the crown of the head, inhale, stretch up, create length, and then exhale, look over your shoulder and twist. So we'll do this 3 times. That's the first one. Again, inhale, stretch up, exhale, turn, twist. Can you feel that rotation into the spine? One more, inhale, stretch up, exhale, twist, twist, twist. Wonderful. And you can come back to centre. Feels nice to move. So that's just an example of if we were doing a chair yoga sequence, there's some of the postures that we would be able to do. So all those postures you can do in a chair, or you can do standing, or you can do on the floor as well. And just to finish off, I think I have another couple of minutes. So I just want to take you through a guided meditation. So for this guided meditation, it is completely up to you whether you keep your eyes open or closed. If you are going to keep your eyes open, just focus either on the table or about a metre in front of you on the floor, just to keep your attention focused on that one spot. And we're going to start with a nice long neutral spine. So if you are slouching or relaxed back in your chair, just sit up nice and tall. Relax the shoulders. With the arms, you can leave the arms either stretched out long in front. You can interlace the fingers on your lap. It's completely up to you, just whatever you find comfortable here. We're first going to take 2 big deep breaths. So for the first inhale, inhale through your nose completely, and then on your exhale, actually physically, yes, vocally let it out. Let's do it again. Inhale, exhale, feels good. And then on your next inhale through the nose, and your next exhale will be through the nose as well. So from here on, we're inhaling and exhaling through the nose. And if you would like to close your eyes, you can close your eyes. As you inhale, feel your lungs expand. Notice how your chest rises, gentle shoulder rise as well. And then on your exhale breath, notice how your chest falls, the shoulders relax. There's a sense of letting go. As you inhale, feel the air rushing through the nose, down the throat into the lungs. As you exhale, can you tune into that warm sensation of the breath over the upper lip? And as you inhale and exhale here, feel the muscles begin to soften, begin to relax. And then see if you can bring your attention to that slight pause between your inhale and your exhale breath. Allow your thoughts to come and go. Allow your body to relax. And then on your next inhale, you can open your eyes and come back to the present moment. Doesn't that feel great? Thank you, everyone.